St. John's with a loss last night, a big loss to Villanova in Villanova, kind of a look-ahead game. They were looking past Villanova, possibly to Creighton on Sunday, which is a big showdown for the top spot in the Big East. And they got out. They got beat yesterday. They let Villanova get a lead. They came back, and then they got beat on the three-pointer with 8 seconds to go. St. John's had a look to win it at the end, and they missed the shot. And classic St. John's, right? But they still hold the top spot. They still control their own destiny for regular season champions in the Big East. There's still, if they win on Sunday against Creighton, I think they will probably be a good chance to get that championship, the regular season championship. But that's really irrelevant in college basketball because it comes down to the tournaments, right? The Big East tournament and the NCAA tournament going forward. They're projected now as a 3 seed, which is crazy to me out of nowhere. And Pitino gets all the credit for doing that. But last night, Villanova, a team that's not as good as St. John's, that's not as well coached, that's not as talented as St. John's, got the better of them on the road. A good win for Villanova, a big win for Villanova as far as their tournament chances, matter. That's a win against a top 10 team in the country. That's a big win for the Wildcats in Villanova. And St. John's, they got to regroup and they got to come back on Sunday, and that which should be a wild scene at the Garden, a full house, 22,000 at the Garden, should pack the place. And they need to come back and they need to beat Creighton on Sunday. And we'll see how this team rebounds now after the 10-game win streak comes to an end. And it might be the best thing for them, losing last night. That's not a devastating loss or anything like that. That could be the best thing for this team. See how now they can respond. They clearly, I think, were looking past Villanova last night to the Creighton game. They thought they could kind of go in there and just take care of business. And, it's a Big East. It's a conference game. It's on the road. Nothing comes easy. And they found that out last night, and I'm sure Pitino will have them ready for Sunday. So we're going to get right to our interview today. We got a special guest. He's from Newsday. He's been in the business 42 years. He covers Long Island high school sports. We're going to touch on that, which is something we don't touch on too much here. We're going to talk about Hall of Fame with him, and we're going to talk Jets and Aaron Rodgers and also some St. John's. So his name is Brian Heyman. He's from Newsday, and here's my interview with Brian. Enjoy it. We'll see you on the other side. All right, so now we'd like to welcome in our guest. He's from Newsday, Brian Heyman. He's been a sports writer in the area for 42 years. He's worked at the Gannett's Journal News in Westchester, Rockland, Putnam counties. He's a Baseball Hall of Fame voter. He is covers Long Island high school sports. We're going to get into all that. We'd like to welcome Brian Heyman. Brian, thanks for joining the show.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We were just talking before. We were talking about the St. John's game last night and how it was classic St. John's. Now, I know you haven't covered them, wall to wall this year, but what you've seen of this St. John's team, they're talking about a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, which it blows my mind to begin with. But what do you think about the St. John's team? They kind of remind me, as little as I was, or from what I've heard, of the 80s teams with Chris Mullen and how they can't really shoot threes. They can't hit free throws, but they're tough. They're big. They're strong. What do you think about the St. John's team?
You just said it. They're tough. They're big and they're strong. I covered their, a couple of their games recently, including Xavier and Marquette. And, last week, that was a big week for them, beating Marquette and going on the road and beating UConn. The Marquette game impressed me to a certain extent because they were, so physical and so, good on the board and good on defense down the stretch. It's it's like a Pitino team with a great defensive mentality. The lack of shooting sometimes would, concern me. I know that defense could be a great equalizer, but, if you let a team hanging around, like you look at the Villanova, you get a puncher's chance there, and they hit the Villanova hits the big shot at the end to win that game and end the 10-game winning streak. So, I like them. I think they're a very good team. I think they have a very good coach who's well proven. But as you get into the postseason, you would like to see St. John's do well because they've been so irrelevant in this market
So bad, so
for a
bad.
while. I mean, they've made the NCAAs here and there, but they haven't won a tournament game, I don't think, since 2000, which is a long time.
Yeah.
Doing things since they haven't done since the mid '80s, as far as their best starts in the Big East and things like that. So there is potential there. They also got a couple injuries right now that are not too helpful. But you're hoping that they could go on a run. I think just as a New York sports fan.
Yeah, give us a run, give us something. I mean, it's the best they've been ranked in 25 years. And Pitino, for him to come in here, the 2 years, I think paying the players, the fact that they can pay the players and keep Pitino out of trouble maybe a little bit, I think that helps. Because Pitino, he finds trouble wherever he goes. But it's never his fault, but he finds trouble wherever he goes. I think that the lack of three-point shooting, though, is a big thing. Because in the NCAA tournament, that's the difference, right? These teams hit threes, and look at last night. You could lose to a team. That's what makes the NCAA tournament great, and that's what breeds the upset, is these teams get red hot. Some little kid out of nowhere from some nowhere school gets red hot behind the arc, rips down like 8 or 9 threes, and all of a sudden you got like a Duke team as the 2 seed is out in the second round. And you're like, I could see that happening to St. John's, but they're a good team. They're a good basketball team, and I think the Garden's going to be rocking on Sunday. Well, against Creighton. They got a big game against Creighton. They're a game ahead of Creighton. They still control their own destiny. In the Big East tournament, I'm always at the Big East tournament. I love the Big East tournament. I'm there every year. I also said, I always thought that Madison Square Garden being the draw that it is, I think part of the problem was the Knicks. Because this generation of kids right now, they're in college, they don't know the Garden as the Garden. Like me and you know the Garden as the Mecca of basketball, because the Knicks were never good. And these kids growing up, the Knicks were never good. They've never seen the Garden be the Garden, except for the last 2 or 3 years. And I think the fact that the Knicks are good and that these kids can actually see what the Garden means and what it is important. And I think that helps St. John's. What do you think about that?
I do. I think, when you see 19,000 people for a St. John's game at the Garden, that's a lift. That's a lift for this team. I mean, Marquette game, I think there were about 16,000 there, and they could feel that energy being just emanating from the crowd for them. So for them to play the Big East tournament at home and to be good, that's a big help. That really is a big help. So I can see them going to the semis and maybe the finals. And in this tournament, I really could. And then you get
shot
that
in the
NCAA
dark.
tournament.
Roll the dice.
You just don't know. As you said, you just don't know if they're the 3 seed, some 14 seed or whatever comes.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, because I've been filling out brackets since I was in 6th grade, and we were cutting school for the Thursday and Friday every year, cutting school to go watch the tournament at noon. We'd go to our morning classes, we'd split out, and then we'd miss it the afternoon, Thursday, Friday, we'd go watch the tournament somewhere, and I've been filling out brackets and following it. Never once, not once, have I won a bracket pool. I made it to the finals, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago. I was up a heads up against my father. He beat me. But the only chance I've ever had. I've never won. And I'm usually, by Saturday, it's just my bracket's just a list of losers. It's just That's just the way it is. But that's the beauty of it. That's why it's so great. And that's why I love it so much. Now, the other big story around here, Aaron Rodgers, the Jets. Listen, the Jets parting ways, I think it's a good thing. I think the Jets have to start over because they're not winning the Super Bowl this year. And if you're not going to win the Super Bowl, there's really no point in having Aaron Rodgers. Now, they told him that the word is from, I think it's Diana Rossini of The Athletic, I think she's from, said that they told him he couldn't go on McAfee and he had to go to every practice. Now, that doesn't seem like unreasonable things to me. It's a deal breaker for him. What do you think about that?
You have a rookie coach coming in, and then you have a quarterback who is kind of maybe views himself as larger than life. He's such a big personality. He's used to doing things his way. I think they really catered to him a lot in his 2 years here, and bringing bringing some of his friends in to play. I could see where, a new coach wants like everyone fitting in to be like 53 guys and not just 1 and 52, and having to, turn on the TV on Tuesday and Aaron says something to Pat McAfee, and then it's kind of a 2-day storyline, and it kind of distracts. And I think Aaron had said, "Oh, we don't need any distractions around here," or things like that, and like he was one of the distractions. It's not a lot to ask, especially with a new regime coming in to come to all the off-season stuff. And he might have been willing to do that. The thing with skipping mandatory minicamp last year, I thought was terrible. I mean, I did not. I don't think it impacted their final record, but it just since the beginning of time, veterans minicamp has been in those first 2 weeks of June. So you don't schedule your vacation around then. You have the last 2 weeks of June if you want to take some time off and go to Egypt or whatever. So I didn't.
He's weird. He's like out eating mushrooms. He's like out eating mushrooms in like the desert somewhere. Like, come on, what are you? And listen, we get it. We all know you're a weird guy. Let's be real, he's a weird guy, right? Aaron Rodgers is not, and he had a decent year last year. I called him average Rodgers last year. I thought he was decent, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers. And that's what the Jets wanted. That's what they needed. And football's a team game. You're going to have to step in line somewhere along the line, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, he's a little different. And, I thought he was banged up a little bit during the season. I think that affected him. And then towards the end, I think he got healthy. I think he was better, but he's not the same player. And he shouldn't be the same player usually because he's in his early 40s. So, but I also, you look at it and you really wonder going forward about them, what's going to happen at quarterback. I mean, they have Tyrod Taylor, who's a good backup.
I like Tyrod Taylor.
I don't even... Yeah, I mean he gets hurt a lot if you play him in extended time, but he's a good backup. I don't know if they're looking at him as a bridge quarterback. I think they'll try to bring in a veteran, and then this draft is there's
not
a lot
many quarterbacks.
Of mixed feelings.
No quarterbacks.
There's a lot of mixed feelings about the two best quarterbacks. Although, I mean, I like Cam Ward myself, but I'm not a pro football scout. I mean, what I've seen, I like. And Sanders has a big personality, kind of like his father.
That could go either way. Sanders could go either way.
Yeah. I don't know if he's great or good or how he would be.
Is that it?
And then you're talking about.
Is that it for Rodgers?
Oh, is that it for Rodgers? He kind of gave off indications that he wants to still play, and I think there will still be a little bit of interest for him somewhere. I'm not 100% sure. He might, go into a retreat and say, "All right, I'm done. Let me go to ESPN, who I just ripped everyone on there."
I don't think he'd go to ESPN. I mean, they might want him for the controversy.
CBS,
Yeah. He could take Boomer's spot over at CBS, but I mean. Yeah, listen, like I said, he's a controversy. He's an all-time great. When Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, there's nobody like him. I mean, the way he could move, his arm strength, just everything. He's just like you said. The Father Time got there, and you don't beat time. Everybody gets old, no matter who you are. We're all getting old, and he's not the same quarterback.
Yeah, and he's an unpredictable guy, so you don't really know what he's going to do. I think he could be. In the right situation, I think he could be serviceable still, and maybe help a team, go 9-8, depending on the talent around him. I mean, the Jets' defense really let them down, really underachieved, I think, and kind of let them down this past season. And
the defense. I mean, what like Sauce? Like, what do you do? How do you go from the best corner? They were putting gold jackets on Sauce Gardner 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're just getting beat left and right all over the place, and you can't cover anybody. I don't know what happened there.
I think they need, I think it helps when you have a consistent pass rush, and losing, Jermaine Johnson early on did not help the cause there. Will McDonald turned out to be a pretty good pass rusher, but also you could run on the Jets too. So they need to. They need someone to sit next to Quinnen Williams in the middle of the line and like stuff things up there. Yeah. I think as well. And I think Sauce will. I think he's a talented guy. I think he'll come back and rebound.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to need another cornerback now opposite him. If DJ Reed, who sounded like he wants to go elsewhere, goes elsewhere. I'm interested to see how Aaron Glenn does, because he wanted to be here. He spent a lot of his time here.
He's a Jet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is interesting.
I think it means something to him. He's not just like another guy coming in here. But then again, have I ever seen him manage the clock?
No. You have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea. He won the press conference, right? He won the press conference. That's all we know. And you have no idea what these guys look. I always said, Buddy Ryan could be as good of a defensive coordinator and defensive mind as there ever has, and be as bad of a head coach as he was. You have no idea. You really don't. You have no idea. Maybe he could be great. Could be the next Belichick, but he could be terrible. So you really have no idea with these quarterbacks. And if the Super Bowl taught us one thing this year, it's pass rush, right? You want to beat somebody, pass rush. No quarterback can handle a pass rush. They can't play. The offense breaks down. As brilliant as Andy Reid is as an offensive mind, it all breaks down if the pass rush gets to the quarterback immediately.
100% correct. I mean, and you saw it like in the last couple of giant Super Bowls where they got some heat on Brady, and then they had Manning just going crazy at the end of games, pulling some really nice throws.
Which is why he's a Hall of Famer, by the way. Which is why he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
But you look at him. I can see why there's a mixed feelings about him, because he never won a postseason game outside of those two runs, but you can't take those two runs away from him. No. I mean, how many multiple MVPs are there out there?
6. There's 6, and they're all legendary. They're all legendary players.
Yeah.
There's 6 of them, and they're all legendary players. And listen, he's not his brother. I think Sunday to Sunday, his brother's the best quarterback I've ever seen. He coached the teams. But those two runs and those plays and that throw to Manningham that he made to start that drive down the left sideline in that second Super Bowl is one of the great throws you will ever see.
Correct. And even the throw to Tyree, it was a miracle. Trapped it against
a miracle. A miracle. He could have got blown for in the grasp there too, though. That's a miracle. I can't believe I would have blown the whistle.
Yeah. Well, they let him play.
You let him play.
I think I think Eli will get in. It might be a wait because I think Drew Brees is coming up soon, and they seem like they don't want to take as many now in one shot, as many players for each election year. I think he'll eventually get in. I mean, he's in the top 10 list for like passing yardage all time and
touchdowns and passing.
I think he's done enough to get in.
Absolutely.
I think he's done enough to get in.
Now you're a Hall of Fame voter. You're a Hall of Fame voter for baseball. One thing I don't like about the NFL is that somebody has to make it every year because they have that Hall of Fame game and they God forbid the NFL gives up a couple bucks here or there. Somebody's getting in every year. I don't like that because maybe there's a year where somebody doesn't get in. Now you're a Hall of Fame voter for baseball. Just on the record, let's get it on the record. Are you the guy who did not vote for Ichiro?
I deny everything.
Okay. Now what? Now,
as I've said, it's kind of embarrassing. I think to there's only less than around 400 writers in the country who do this, and I think it's embarrassing that you do not vote for Ichiro for the first ballot. I mean, he's got how many hits did he have to have? In Japan and here to get in. So I voted for him, and I voted for CC, and I voted for Wagner. So I was good this year.
Now here I'll pick
this year.
I'll pick a bit of a fight with you. Why not Andrew Jones? Andrew Jones is a Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned.
I didn't think so. Maybe I'm old school, but I thought, how can I? And I agree. He was a great center fielder, had a great first half of his career. He had a terrible second half of his career. And I believe he's a 254 career hitter. And I know people devalue batting average in this day and age, but
the defense.
How can I put a 250? Defense was great, but how can I put a 254 hitter in the Hall of Fame? I couldn't do it.
It's fair point.
I have not voted for him. But he's gaining support, so maybe he will. I don't vote for the perceived alleged
Steroid guys. Okay, that's fair. Is he a steroid guy? He's not a steroid guy, right? Andrew Jones?
So I don't think so. Not that I know.
No, he's not.
Talking about like A-Rod and Manny Ramirez.
Yeah. Okay,
Ramirez,
that's fair. They don't belong in there anymore.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking. Yeah, I wasn't referring to
fair
in that regard. And the Beltran, I didn't vote for Beltran. I mean, being involved in like one of the great scandals in baseball history bothers me.
But will you vote for Beltran?
There's a little thing that.
Like, did you give Beltran his punishment? Did you give him his punishment, and then you'll vote for him?
No, because I'm like, to me, he was borderline. I mean, when he was with the Mets, and I covered.
No, he's not borderline.
I didn't think I was.
Beltran's not borderline. Beltran's not borderline.
I mean, postseason Beltran is not borderline, but I thought he was overall. When I was watching with the Mets, I'm like, is this one generational talent, or is he like a Hall of Fame talent? I didn't see that here, but I think he will get in. So I'm not like I have trouble with, and I'll tell you why I have trouble with these things. And I think a lot of voters ignore this, but we get a list of instructions, and part of those instructions, it says integrity, character, sportsmanship. And I just felt like that was a big deal, the Astros scandal. And so, I couldn't bring myself to vote for him.
And Beltran, listen, with the Mets, I don't think I think he gets kind of pigeonholed with the strikeout looking. Beltran is hands down the best center fielder the Mets have ever had. I'm not a huge Beltran guy, and I think the fact that you call him borderline, I don't think he's borderline. I think he's one of the all-time great center fielders. When you look at the numbers, it's just there, right?
Well, to me, he's borderline. But,
okay, listen, that's fair. That's fair. That's your opinion.
He had a very excellent career. I mean, and I think he will get into the Hall of Fame. And,
okay.
Maybe I won't be helping him, but I think he will gain the support and get in.
Hey, you have a vote. It's your vote, right? It's and that's what the great argument is. It's great debate with people. You sit here, we can sit here and go player by player for hours and disagree about most of them, and that's what makes the Hall of Fame great. And it is what it is. The other Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm a very tough grader, and here I am, a tough grader, putting in two guys that you're saying no to. So it is what it is.
I'm a tough grader. Yeah, I'm a tough grader too. I don't vote for a lot of guys.
Okay.
I think my bar when I first started out, I think it was too high. I think like not everyone could be Willie Mays.
Yeah, no.
Not everybody could be Hank Aaron, but they could still be great and still be Hall of Fame worthy. So I think I've come to that realization after a few years. I think there was one year that I did not vote for anybody. I felt bad about it, but I didn't feel they were Hall of Famers.
That's it. Then you don't vote for them.
Next year next year is a tough ballot because I don't know that anybody really strikes me that really.
Who's next year? Is Yachty? Is Molina?
I looked at
is Molina in next year?
He's not up.
He's not up next year.
He's not up yet. He's not up yet.
Okay.
He's not on the ballot. No, but when he does, when he does get on the ballot, I would vote for.
Yeah. Oh, you have to vote for him.
He was
unbelievable.
He was worthy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Pujols is a guy you would vote for as well. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I put a lot of credit, a lot of weight. If you get 3,000 hits, that's a lot. That's a lot of hits.
Yeah.
So I think maybe some people would have argued with Biggio. I voted for Biggio.
Biggio's a Hall of Famer
when he got in.
Biggio's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I voted for him. So it's a very tough thing. I mean, the guy that I looked at a lot this year, and I didn't vote for him in the end, was Felix Hernandez from Seattle. He had like a brilliant kind of shorter stretch, and then he kind of faded, a bit too. And you're not going to have the starting pitchers. you're not going to really have those traditional numbers anymore. Like, oh, he won 300 games. I mean, that's really going to be hard to do.
King Felix was dominant. King Felix was dominant when he was dominant. Now the question is was it long enough? And so I struggled with that pick, but I in the end I did not choose him. I mean, I'll look again hard next year. And that's another thing is that if you're a Hall of Famer, should it just hit you that this guy's a Hall of Famer, or should you have to think about it? Should you have to think about it? So that's a hard thing. So I'm thinking about Felix Hernandez. So does that mean he's not a Hall of Famer? I was going to say the same thing.
Maybe it's a question for the gods.
You're right though. I was going to say the same thing. I go, a lot of times I just look at these guys. You know, if he's a Hall of Famer, I know he's a Hall of Famer. You look at them, you watch them play, you go, you know what? This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's better than everybody. He's been better than everybody for a decade. He's a Hall of Famer. Like Molina or someone like you look at them, but there are questions, and King Felix is definitely one of them, and Andrew Jones is another one. You can listen. More people think that he's not a Hall of Famer than he is, obviously, because they more people disagree with me because he's not in. Now you also cover Long Island sports, football. You cover all Long Island sports or just football?
Football, and right now we're in the middle of basketball. So
okay,
basketball.
I'm from Sayville, so basketball was never a thing in Sayville.
Okay, but football is a thing in Sayville.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's always been a thing. Now they just Reed Sands was the coach. We were actually going to have him on here before the championship game that they lost. But he stepped down. Well, what do you know about him stepping down? Do you know who they if they named a new coach? I'm not positive yet. What's going on with Sayville and their football program?
Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to replace him, but with him, I mean, when he stepped down, he kind of said that it was a family thing. He wanted to spend more time with family. His two sons, and one of whom was a very good linebacker for him last season. Are going to go off and play in college. He wants to see them play. But the other thing was that he said this could be a short hiatus. So he might miss coaching. He might be back in another district at some point. But did a very good job with Sayville. So there's no
excellent job. Now what do you and Jack Cohn? I've argued with people endlessly on these Sayville websites about Jack Cohn, and a lot of them are parents and stuff, so they don't understand that he was going to be a good next Tom Brady and this and that. He's just not quite an NFL quarterback, right? He could probably be a backup in the league. He probably could. He played well for Wisconsin, well for Notre Dame. He's just short of an NFL quarterback, and there's nothing that's nothing to cry home about. He had a great collegiate career. I tell people, I go, he won a Rose Bowl. He's a Sayville football quarterback. He won a Rose Bowl. Tell me your impression of Jack Cohn and in high school, what you thought of him, and since when he left high school.
Well, in full disclosure, I never got assigned to a Sayville game. I think I was working freelance at Newsday at that time when he was in high school. So I never got to see him. But in college, it's pretty good. So and as you said, I mean, he had like a brief shot with NFL stuff and didn't work out. And there's so many good high school quarterbacks and college quarterback, and it's just a total different deal at the NFL level. Now, I don't know if he has interest, but there's a new arena team coming to Long Island this summer.
He's floating around
there. That's going to be a passing offense.
And he'll run clinics, and he'll be able to make a career out of football.
Yeah, I'm not sure, where he's at what he's doing at the moment, but I've seen the stats, so it's undeniable what he did in high school, and he's very good at two programs in college. So, he'll always have that, and not everyone can say that. So.
Exactly. And now, real quickly, but before I let you go, it's always been a question in my mind. Now, when you have someone like Jack Cohn, obviously you're going to throw the ball and you're going to run the pro style offense. when I was in high school in 99, I graduated. So mid 90s, in high school, it was kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, run the fullback up the middle. You throw it every once in a while down the field, 2-3 times a game. And then I turn around a couple years later, maybe 8-10 years later, and they're running 5 wides, pro style offense, shotgun every play. When did that change and why did it change?
I just think that, it's, the NFL really became a passing league in, I don't know, the last decade or whatever. And I think that has spread down the levels. And even, in high school, you're right. You used to see just run.
Yeah.
And it's different now. And, the one thing that I object to in my own thinking with the NFL is the total devaluation of running backs, because having you do run a lot of times still. And so getting to my Saquon Barkley point that the Giants should never have let him go. He would not have done the 2000 with the Giants this year.
They would have won one more game with him. The Giants are terrible.
Yeah, that's true. But, I think he meant a lot to that team, and even more than just as a running back. I don't know that it would have made a big a difference because they need some more talent to state the obvious. But there's some guys who just you feel like they belong, like Pete Alonso. You feel like he belongs with the Mets, and Saquon I thought belonged here, and he didn't get much more money with the Eagles. But they were willing to pay him. So I did not. I was first guessing that I did not like when they let him go at that time. And for the Mets, it's good that they have Pete back at least for 1 or 2 years.
1 or 2 years, a 1-year deal, and you know what? Hopefully he kills it this year. He opts out. We let him go. We get Guerrero, and away we go. Because you know why? Because that's the great thing about Uncle Steve. We could just throw money at our problems now. And I don't care that I sound like a Yankee fan and everything like that. Like, look, we paid Scherzer and Verlander's contract last year. We were paying half the NL's contracts last year, and the people that argue about it, listen, your hot dog's not going to go down. Your soda or beer price is not going down. Parking's going to always be $50. So just enjoy it. Don't worry about us throwing money around. He's got the money. Let him throw the money around.
Yeah, no, it's very nice to have $25 billion in your pocket. I do not have it myself, but.
Just short. I'm just short.
I'm just a little bit short, but I wonder what it would be like. But I think he's still. I think he's. He's.
Well, look at they held tight.
The line
With Alonso, they held strong.
And also with even the starting pitching, they're shopping in the bargain basement bin for the back end of the rotation there instead of just. They did bring Manaea back, which was a good move.
Yes.
But David Stearns does not believe in spending big long-term contracts on pitchers who are 30 years plus, and so Fried is a Yankee, and
let him have him.
But you're also taking a risk there with some of these projects do not work out, and yet you're all in to win this season. So I wonder. That's a question. That's a question I have with the Mets. How will their starting pitching hold up? And they're going to go, I think, with a 6-man rotation too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think. Listen, last year was maybe the most fun I've had as a Mets fan as an adult. Like when those teams, like I missed the opportunity to win when I was 14 and 15 and 16, which is the ultimate time to have your team win. I'm a Rangers fan. 94 is my I hold that near and dear to my heart. That's my all-time favorite team. And I missed that with the Mets. But last year I had a blast. I was at all the games at Citi Field. It was a blast. It was so much fun. And if we could just continue it this year, I think they got at least a chance to compete with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers just talk about people who spend and don't have a conscience, but they should be tough again. But I do, even with my wondering about the starting pitching, I do think the Mets are a playoff team, and I think their lineup is pretty formidable at this point. And Alonso allows them to keep Vientos at third. I think he was starting to get more comfortable there, and I think he's an ascending player. And Soto should help. And
just a little bit, right?
A little bit. His bat's okay. But I don't know how he'll be at his age 38 season.
He'll be fine. Don't worry about it. We have 3 titles in our back pocket. We can do whatever he wants at 38.
Yeah, for today, he's going to be helpful. So
yeah. Well, I'll look for you out at City Field, and I'll nail you a little bit more about King Felix and Andrew Jones, and we'll fight over that there. Brian Heyman is his name. You can catch him in Newsday. Read his stuff. He's great. He covers all local sports. Brian, appreciate you giving us a couple minutes here.
Oh, very, very good to be with you. Thanks for having me on, Bob.
Absolutely. How about that? Thank you. Brian Heyman from Newsday. Excellent points. I disagree with him on some of the Hall of Fame picks, but that's what that's all about, right? That's why we love baseball and we love the Hall of Fame and we argue, and that's great. A lot on the Savo and the Savo football head coaching position and some Jack Cohn information you got there. You got a little bit of everything. So thank you to Brian Heyman for coming on and giving us a couple minutes. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun talking with him. Hope he had as much fun, and I hope you had even more fun watching and listening to it. So that's going to do it for us here for today. Brett and I will be back later this week, early next week with another show. We got spring training coming up. We're heading down that way. It's going to be a lot of fun coming up. A lot of things on the horizon with the college basketball. St. John's, huge game on Sunday. Huge game for St. John's on Sunday. They got to win this one. They got to get the top spot in the Big East. They'll put them 2 games up if they can beat Creighton. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Garden should be packed. It should be raucous. And you don't see that very often for St. John's games. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Every little bit helps. You can find us, as always, on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast if you want to listen, and always at lockedupsports.net, lockedupsports.net. So that does it for us. I'm Bob Walters. Thank you again to Brian Heyman from Newsday for giving us a couple of minutes. We'll talk to you next time from the Brian Gunzel Studios. See ya.